Welcome to the WalterFootball.com podcast. This is episode 278. We're talking about the 2020 NFL Draft. This is our recap of it. We're going to talk about which teams did well, which teams did poorly, who the busts are, who the sleepers are. Joined once again by Jacob Camenker from NBC Sports Boston. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm recovering after the draft. I spent a good chunk of today napping, catching up on sleep. So feeling good and ready to talk about this thing.
All right, so I'm jealous of that nap. I barely gotten to sleep the past 5 or 6 days. Also joined by Charlie Campbell, the senior NFL draft analyst at WalterFootball.com, the best NFL draft analyst on the planet. Charlie, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to start another draft class here before long and get to know some new players and also kind of recap this one as we do with our season previews and our rookie forecasts and just kind of looking ahead. It's exciting to think that football isn't too far away. So I'm excited that before too long, we're going to be closing in here on some games and practice and preseason.
Hopefully it's coming soon. I actually spoke to someone in the league office yesterday, and I asked them if they heard anything, and he said that he hasn't heard anything about football starting soon. But I have to imagine that we're getting close. I hope we are. But we can discuss the 2020 NFL Draft. It's very interesting. The first virtual draft, hopefully the last. Just because of some strange things that happened, and we all know what happened with Goodell and the Mike Vrabel household situation. But let's talk about the. Let's go through the first round, and we'll break down the segments of 8. So we'll go 4 picks at a time. We can also discuss what else the teams have done in the draft. So let's break down the first 4. Bengals, obviously, we're going to take Joe Burrow all along, and then Charlie reported back in February that the Redskins were not going to trade out of 2, and they took Chase Young. The Lions did not move out of 3, and they drafted Jeff Okudah. And then the Giants, kind of an upset here. They drafted Andrew Thomas. So Jacob and then Charlie, how would you break these 4 teams down?
Yeah, I think all these teams landed really good players. I think there's no doubt about that. The pick of Joe Burrow and Chase Young, those have been locked in for a long time. Kudos to you, Charlie, for getting Chase Young right. I think this is at least the 3rd or 4th year you've gotten the Redskins pick right. So keep up the good work with that. Both of those guys are definitely going to be big playmakers for their teams. When you get down to number 3 for Detroit, I know, Walt, you've expressed this a little bit as well. Felt there was an opportunity that they could have traded down and still gotten Okudah. I'm not sure that if the Dolphins were offering up enough to move up to number 3 that the Lions would want to risk that, but I thought that was a possibility. Love the pick of Okudah, though. He fits in very well there. Just thought they could have gotten a little bit of better value. I think the Giants pick's the most interesting one. I think they went with a prospect who has the highest floor at tackle, but I think very few people thought they were actually going to go with Andrew Thomas over the likes of Tristan Wirfs. And I know Jedrick Wills had some buzz at that pick, but it was most thought it was going to be Wirfs. I actually like the Thomas pick. I think he's going to be a very safe NFL player. I think he's going to be rock solid on either side of the line, probably play him at left tackle. They drafted Matt Peart also, so he can play on the right side. I really liked that pick. I was mad at myself. I had him mocked to the Giants on Wednesday, and I reversed course there. But I have to say, I didn't really have much of a problem with any of the first 4 picks. Just, the Giants were a little surprising, but again, it's not going to be a bad pick because they went with the safe option.
Charlie, what are your thoughts on the top 4?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing Jacob. But I definitely feel that this went pretty chalk in terms of the first 4 as expected there. To me, I'm a little from the Redskins' perspective. I think that it's interesting what they're doing because you're sinking a lot of resources, premium resources, into that defensive line. So you only have so many first-round picks, and you only have so many to spread around the roster. So to have 4 in a row on the defensive line, obviously defensive line is a critical position. But you do have to wonder, are you neglecting other spots on the team as wide receiver, corner, offensive tackle, or other premium positions that are really important being neglected here. So it'll be interesting to see how the Redskins are able to potentially retain all four of these guys, assuming they want to. But for the next 4 or 5 years, they have the makings of a potential lethal defensive line. I think the Lions played it pretty safe with Jeff Okudah. I think he can step in and play quickly, give them a nice corner tandem with Trufant. I think that Derrick Brown was the better prospect, but considering what they signed in free agency with getting some run-stuffing nose tackles, I can see where they would be more inclined to go with a corner. And then with the Giants, I like the Andrew Thomas pick. As we knew and reported, it kind of came down to him and Tristan Wirfs. And I think the Giants made the right move there because I think Andrew Thomas is the safer of the two. You saw him do a great job as a blindside protector in the SEC the past 2 seasons. Started as a freshman, really played in some big-time games with Georgia going into the playoffs in that time and SEC championship games. So I think he was the safer of the two. And considering what they have and needing Daniel Jones to kind of get that franchise turned around, what they have invested in Saquon Barkley, what they're going to pay Saquon Barkley in an extension, I think going with the safe guy makes a lot of sense for them. So I think they made the right move there with Andrew Thomas at 4.
Yeah, I think the only way they could have made the wrong move is taking Isaiah Simmons. I mean, it was either going to be Andrew Thomas or Tristan Wirfs. I think going linebacker would have been a big mistake. Like, not only did they sign Blake Martinez in free agency, but they had to protect Daniel Jones and also give Saquon Barkley more running room. So I like the Giants this year. I've discussed this before. I think they make a playoff run and maybe make a deep run into the playoffs. And I really liked the second round pick, Xavier McKinney. I thought that was a kind of a steal because people thought he was going to go in late teens or early 20s. The Lions, I like Okudah as a player. I think he's a terrific corner. He's going to be great for them, I think. But I really think they should have traded down. And I know there's been some sentiment that it's harder to trade in a virtual draft environment. We haven't heard anything to kind of justify that sort of thinking, but maybe theoretically they had some trouble communicating. But I think you could say that for most teams, but the Lions had 2 months to make this trade. Once it was clear that the Redskins were going to take Chase Young and, Young was not going to be available at 3, the Lions should have had a deal done. Like, even if they didn't get good value on the trade value chart, like even if they got a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick, like at least something to move down, because Okudah was definitely going to be there at 5. Like, the Giants were not going to take Okudah, and the Dolphins, if they're traded up, they're not going to take Okudah. So there's no gamble. Just take a 4th or a 5th, even a 5th round pick. Like, just take something. But yeah, I agree with what you guys said about the Redskins and Chase Young and Burrow was going to be the obvious pick. I'm a little upset about the Bengals. They didn't address their offensive line at all. I thought that was a big mistake. I think you have to protect your rookie quarterback. And, they took T. Higgins at 33. He can't separate, I don't think. I thought that was a reach. Thought they should have gone offensive line. But Burrow's going to be good for them, though. All right, let's get to 5 through 8. The Dolphins took Tua Tagovailoa. The Chargers drafted Justin Herbert. Panthers selected Derrick Brown. And the Cardinals took Isaiah Simmons. So, Jacob, then Charlie, what are your thoughts on these 4 teams?
Yeah, this was another segment of the draft that kind of felt like chalk. Nothing really surprising here. The Dolphins going with Tua. I know there had been the Tua Herbert debate, but I think they ultimately made the right decision. I think if Tua had been healthy, he could have challenged Joe Burrow for the number 1 spot in this class. I don't know if that actually would have happened or who would have gone first if he stayed healthy, but I'm a big fan of Tua. I think he's Russell Wilson-like potential. And even if he's not ready to start right away, the Dolphins, the way they've constructed their rebuild, they can afford to start Ryan Fitzpatrick this year. They don't have to make the playoffs, and it seems like they trust Brian Flores to build this team the right way. So I really liked that pick. In terms of the other ones, the Isaiah Simmons pick to the Cardinals. Ended up getting that one wrong. I did not think they would go linebacker, but their defense is now looking a whole lot better with what they have there. They have Jordan Hicks. They have Chandler Jones, Devon Kennard, and Isaiah Simmons playing linebackers and rush linebackers in their 3-4. So I really like those. And I think if you look at what the Chargers and the Panthers did, Chargers needed a long-term quarterback. Even if they trust Tyrod Taylor for 1 year, they have to have someone behind him because he's proven to be only an average starter at best when he started in Buffalo. And then you look at Derrick Brown, safe pick, rock solid for the Panthers. They spent all 7 of their picks on defense, which I thought was actually a great idea. So Matt Rule's trying to build up on that side of the ball, really focus on getting that defense back to being strong, because that's when the Panthers have made playoff runs. It's been more about their defense than their offense. It's been like Cam Newton in the defense. So maybe they'll try to make it Christian McCaffrey in the defense now. So I'm a big fan of what they did with Derrick Brown. So again, I think all these picks were solid and all these picks made sense. Really, the first 8 picks, there wasn't anything too shocking.
Yeah, Charlie?
Sorry, I couldn't hear Jacob there. I had to pull it up online. So, but yeah, I definitely agree with what Jacob was saying on Carolina as far as having a draft to really address the defense, considering the position they were in last year with the amount of points they gave up, the struggle stopping the run. So, the draft with Derrick Brown will immediately do that. I think Yetur Gross-Matos is a great pick for helping stop the run as well. You saw it in 2018 with his 20 tackles for a loss. So he was really getting after it in the run game as well as in the pass rush, and his pass rush was improved as a junior. So I think those first 2 picks for Carolina are really going to be key to kind of setting a cornerstone bedrock for that franchise, with Brian Burns last year kind of bringing them a special defensive line, and then K'Wan Short for this year. And we'll see if, his long-term future with the team. But at the very least, those 3 young guys, I think, are the bedrock of their defense. And I think Isaiah Simmons, my concern with that pick for Arizona is just, do they have a plan in place for him? Because Hassan Reddick has not broken out yet. Kim Diche was a bust. So DJ Humphries has had some rough moments, and they've kept him around. So they've been kind of drafting these guys that are better athletes than football players. So I think Isaiah Simmons is better than all those guys as a football player, but he is a unique player. So I think they really have to have a plan in place as far as how to use them and to make sure that they're able to, give him the support he's going to need in terms of not taking on blocks as much and letting him fly around the field and do what he does, using his instincts and pass coverage ability, pass rush, everything. But you don't want him taking a lot of blocks in the NFL. So I think that's going to be important to see. I thought the Josh Jones was a really nice value for them in the 3rd round. Give them some more competition at right tackle with Gilbert and the other young guy, name's escaping me at the moment. But between the 3 of them, that gives them some depth at guard as well and tackle. So kind of going in the reverse order here, I think Herbert was a fine pick for the Chargers, considering they didn't have a franchise quarterback with Phillip Rivers leaving. I think his demeanor and whatnot is going to mesh all right with that organization and handle Los Angeles fine. I thought trading up for Kenneth Murray was an excellent move by the Chargers, getting him in the 20s when really he was a top 16 talent. So really, I think they kind of landed their quarterbacks for the defense and offense for the next decade, with a linebacker that can, be the captain of that defense. He's a great locker room guy, great work ethic. So I really like what the Chargers did there. And then with Miami, I think getting Tua was the right move. They aren't going to be expected to challenge for the playoffs this year, even without Tom Brady. They're still, a year or two away, so they can take their time with him and make sure that he's 100% ready to go from a contact perspective. And I think that was the right pick for Miami. I think he's the right fit for the culture they want to build there with Brian Flores. And I agree with Walt that the Lions made a mistake in not trading down at a discount. And I also applaud Miami and the Chargers for not bidding against themselves and giving away a pick out of nervousness and just standing pat and letting their guys fall to them. So I think they deserve some credit there for not doing what Goody did in Green Bay and trading up unnecessarily.
Yeah, and also a couple years ago when Ryan Pace moved from 3 to 2 to get Mitchell Trubisky, it's like another instance of that. And yeah, you have to definitely give the credit to the Dolphins and Chargers for winning the game of chicken, I guess, with the Lions. And we had rumors that the Jaguars wanted to trade up late prior to the draft, but yeah, none of that happened, and the Dolphins Chargers stood pat, and you have to commend them for that. And yeah, I mean, Tua I thought was the right pick for all the reasons you said, Charlie. And yeah, they're probably a year away from contending for the division. And I think that's perfect because he doesn't have to play this year. In fact, Lee Steinberg, Tua's agent, he even tweeted that he thought that rookie quarterbacks should sit their first year. And, you can't blame him because he saw Patrick Mahomes do that. So I think it makes a lot of sense, especially with Tua coming off the injury. I think it'd be smart for the Dolphins just to hold him out, like maybe play him the final game of the year or something like the Chiefs did with Mahomes if he's ready. But I think getting him ready for 2021 is the right move. With Herbert, I like Herbert less. I'm not a big fan of Herbert, but I can understand the pick. The Chargers needed a quarterback, and all that nonsense about Tyrod Taylor being their quarterback is just ridiculous. I feel like Herbert's going to start at some point in 2020, maybe as soon as like October or November. I was a little disappointed the Chargers didn't address left tackle. They trade up Kenneth Murray, and I like Murray. I just thought they should have moved up for left tackle or stood in the second round and taken a left tackle. But otherwise, I have no qualms with their draft. I thought they did a good job. Otherwise, the Panthers, I love the Panthers draft. Getting Derrick Brown and Gross Matos. I think they kind of understand that they're in a division with Tom Brady and Drew Brees, and how do you beat those guys? We saw it twice with the Giants. They just pressured Brady like crazy. So you have to have a great defensive line that doesn't blitz, and you just have to score in the fourth quarter like the 49ers they couldn't do. But yeah, that's basically the formula to beating these elite quarterbacks, and they have 2 elite quarterbacks in their division. So now they have Gross Matos, Derrick Brown, Kawan Short, and then Brian Burns from last year. So they have a great front. Just it really depends on how their linebacking core shapes up with Kuechly gone. But I thought the Panthers did great. And then the Cardinals with Isaiah Simmons, what Rob L is commenting here is correct. The Cardinals plan on trading down, but when Simmons was on the board, they were just shocked, and they took Simmons. And considering how bad they were against tight ends last year, they're torched every single week against tight ends. Simmons can cover the tight ends if needed, and do a lot of other things. He's a great chess piece. But I get what you're saying, Charlie, that I think he's a more athlete than football player, but I still think he's going to be a very good football player. I consider him a lot better than Reddick and some of these other athletes that they drafted. Like, it just seems like he's a legit guy. The question is, like, where does he play? But he can do a lot of good things, I feel like. So